Hi, I'm attorney Amanda Shaffer of the Shapiro law firm. Today I want to talk about preparing for your naturalization interview. If you are watching this video, you most likely have received your naturalization interview notice and you're wondering what to expect, what documents to bring with you. First of all, congratulations, that's very exciting. You are very close to becoming a U.S. citizen. Second, if you are one of our clients watching this, and you've not spoken to us about it yet, if you have any questions after watching this, please do not hesitate to contact us. We're still here for you. This is just because we give you a lot of information all at once, and we want to give you a way to be able to go back, review it, and not have to worry about remembering everything we say. If you're not a client and you're watching this on one of our social media channels, I hope that this video, you find this video helpful. If you do, please share it, like it, follow us for more of our videos. And if you are looking for representation in your naturalization interview or in filing for naturalization or any other immigration needs, my contact information is on the screen, and I will also be including it. If you go to our one of our social media pages that are scrolling along the bottom, you can find all of our contact information there as well. So the hope here is that after watching this video, you will feel much more confident and less nervous about going to your naturalization interview. Now, first of all, I want anyone watching who feels a little nervous to know that is completely normal. In fact, if you weren't a little bit nervous, I'd say that's less normal. Almost everyone is, even someone who has nothing to hide. It's completely normal to feel that way, but I want to tell you that you do not have to be nervous, okay? So let's talk about what we're going to expect. Now, before I get into that, a little quick disclaimer. Nothing that I say here creates an attorney-client relationship. You may already be an existing client, like I said, but this is not information that is geared specific to any one client. This is general information that I'm giving that applies to the majority of people. If there's anything specific about your case not mentioned here, then, and you are one of our clients, we would have spoken to you about it, or we will be speaking to you about it. If you think we haven't spoken to you about something, please contact us. And if you're not one of our clients, please note this is general information. Okay, and again, if you do need an attorney, we are here for you. So we are also going to really be talking right now only about straightforward cases. And what I mean by that is that someone who's applying that checks all the boxes for eligibility and there's no real questions either way, there's no gray areas. I will talk about a couple of things, documents that you might be bringing that could fall into one of these gray areas, but for the most part, this is going to be someone who's clearly eligible. And again, if you're one of our clients, we've already gone through this all with you about eligibility. We don't apply for anyone unless they are eligible. So again, if there's something missing here, it may be because that's a very unique case. So just remember, this is general information only. When you get your interview letter, you're going to want to start preparing all the documents to bring with you. Now, there's not too many that you're going to need, and we'll get to those in a second. But first, let's walk you through, well, before I walk you through, there's always a question of, do I need to bring a lawyer to the interview? I kind of addressed this slightly by saying that number one, you are not required to bring your lawyer to the interview. And number two, you have a right to bring a lawyer to the interview. Some people hire us to go to the interviews simply because they're nervous, and us being there makes them less nervous. More than happy to go in that case. Other people, we will say, we think it's a good idea for you to bring us. And that generally happens when you have a situation where there is some complex legal issue, maybe some type of criminal history, previous naturalization denial for whatever reason. Again, if you have any doubt about whether or not you need a lawyer to go with you, contact us to discuss it. Even if we didn't file your naturalization application, you can hire us to come to the interview with us. When you get there that day, you're going to get to the USCIS building. You're going to show your interview letter. Usually they ask for an ID at the door, which covers one of the documents. Another document you need, which is bring your green card. That's your ID. You're going to go through security. You're going to go upstairs. When you get there, you're going to check in. If we're going with you in person, we'll handle the check-in. If you're there on your own, you're going to I should say, let's start with if we're on the phone. Sometimes we do the interview by phone. At least that's still allowed during COVID. Then I will have given you, or Aaron will have given you in advance, a cover letter that tells the USCIS officer to call us and what phone number. And then it will have Form G28 on it, which is the form that we're representing you, signed by us and by you. And when you get to the window and hand your interview notice, you're going to tell the clerk, my lawyer is going to be appearing by phone. And you're going to hold on to that G28 and cover letter. You're then going to go sit down. And if your lawyer, and again, this is the same process if we're with you in person and if you don't have a lawyer, you sit down. They're going to give you like a little, depends on the office, but in New York City, they usually give you a little printout with like a letter and number. So like J2, M1. You're going to wait anywhere from 0 minutes to 3 hours, who knows. Be prepared to wait, but you're going to wait until you hear your number called. And then you're going to go to the person who called your number. And if we're appearing with you, then we'll hand the officer what needs to be handed, like the interview notice. If we're appearing by phone, that's when you're going to immediately say to the officer, my lawyer's appearing by phone, and hand them the packet with the cover letter and the G28. If you're appearing by yourself, they might ask, do you have a lawyer? No. My lawyer's not appearing. They may make you sign something that waives the lawyer's appearance, which is perfectly fine. Again, we will have discussed this in advance if you're one of our clients, whether or not you should have us there with you. So, I didn't put that up. Do I need a lawyer to come with me? So we already covered that. After you're called in, what's going to happen next? Now, one of two things are going to happen. Generally, this is the order that the officer goes in when I go. I've seen them start with the application first, but we are going to talk about the order that I've seen it happen most common. No matter what the order is, all of this stuff has to occur during the interview. So the first thing that usually happens is the English and the civics test. For the English tests, you're going to ask to read 3 different sentences. Sometimes you read the first sentence, they can tell you can read English, and they stop. If you can read 3 sentences, you pass. Then they're going to ask you to write 3 sentences. So they say like George Washington was the first president, and then you write George Washington was the first president. Again, you're supposed to write 3 different sentences. If you write the first one and it's clear that you can write English, sometimes they forgo the second 2. And then there is the civics test, and that's like the American history geography test. You are going to be asked 10 questions. You need to get 6 out of the 10 correct. Now, if you go to this website, which unfortunately this is not a clickable link, but in the comment section where I post the video or in the transcript, I will make this clickable. This is where you go to get the practice test. Everybody is 2008 version, ignore the 2020 version. There's all the questions that can possibly be asked here, as well as I think you can print out flashcards and do a practice test online, all free. Another thing you can do to prepare is if you go to one of our social media pages that are scrolling along on the bottom, I have a game show called Are You Smarter Than a Naturalized Citizen, which I will hopefully be resuming soon because I've been so busy. But basically, I have 2 people compete. It's usually live on social media when I do it, and I ask them questions that come straight from this website to see if they can pass the naturalization test. So it's a little fun way to go through some of the questions. I highly recommend checking you out. Again, that's called Are You Smarter Than a Naturalized Citizen? So one thing to note, you actually get 2 chances to pass the English and civics test, not at the same interview. So let's say you fail the civics test, you fail the English test, like either or, but everything else with your application is good, you're going to get called back for a second interview. And it's just going to be on the English and civics test. I've had it happen before with a client who passed the second time. If you don't pass it the second time, you get denied. You can reapply again immediately, but you're still going to have to take the test and pass it. So the next thing, what documents everyone needs to bring to the interview. Now, I'm going to first, there are 3 categories that you can be in applying for naturalization based on the number of years that you've had to wait since getting your green card. You may have had your green card for 3 years, for 4 years, or for 5 years. 4 years is if you're an asylee, because your year as an asylee as an account. So the year, so you're granted asylum, that first year you can't apply for your green card, but it still counts towards the 5 years you need. So it's technically 4 years. And then the 5 years. So I'm going to talk about some of those documents after that doesn't apply to everyone. But first, these are, no matter what category I just mentioned that you fall into, you need these documents. I've already mentioned the interview letter. You want to bring the original. If you don't have the original, bring a copy, but they like when you bring the original. They prefer it. I've had people had issues. Always try to bring the original. You're going to need to bring your green card. And if you forget your green card, that's a problem because you have to actually turn in your green card. Or do you turn it in? I think you may turn it in at naturalization. I'm sorry. But they need to see the green card. You may have provided a copy of the green card with the application. You still need to bring the original. For all these documents I'm mentioning from here on out, even if you submitted a copy with the application, you're bringing the original with you. If you have not submitted a copy with the application, bring the original and bring a copy. Okay? Very important. They can make copies, but it's best to be prepared so you're not nervous and you don't get taken off guard. So you're bringing your green card. Next, you're going to bring any passports or travel documents that you have, expired or unexpired. I would recommend photocopying the passport biographic information page or the picture page. You don't have to photocopy any other pages like the stamps or visas to other countries. If USCIS wants any of that, they'll do it. But generally, they have your travel history. You've listed in your application. The stamps sometimes are really hard to read, actually. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but make sure you have your passports. And this includes travel documents. If you've ever had an advance parole document, if you've ever had an asylee or a refugee travel document, anything that you have. And again, make copies of anything that you're bringing with you. And after the copy of the green card, you likely did not submit much other evidence with your initial application for naturalization, which is normal, unlike some other applications you may have filed where we submit everything up front. Here you basically, for the most part, submit just your green card. Next, if you're a male between the age of 18 and 37, or were a male between the age of 18 and 37 while living in the US, even if you're over 37, it's a good idea to bring your selective service registration. If you're above the age, I'm not sure if they still give the letters, but again, contact us about this if you have any questions. We've probably, if we file the application for you, we've already filled out the information and probably already submitted that copy with the application. You don't have to resubmit it if that's the case, but make sure you have it and the information is filled out on the form if you hadn't done it previously. If you changed your name since you got your green card, so this could have been due to a divorce, you could have gotten a court order to change your name. You want to bring the original and a copy of any name change documents. One thing that everyone who files for naturalization will get the opportunity to do is to change their name legally without going to court. So there's a question on the form that says, do you want to change your name when you naturalize? They actually do review that with you and usually give you another chance at the interview to say if you want to change your name. You don't have to change your name. Even if you got divorced and you didn't change your name back, you don't have to change your name. It's a complete option. And basically, it ends up going to a court, and you have a court order, and then your naturalization certificate will come with the court order, but it'll have your name on it. So I always tell people, other than divorce, this is the easiest time to change your name. You can always change it after if you want, but then you have to go back and get a new naturalization certificate to get a new passport and stuff. So if you're thinking of changing your name, now would be the time. If you've already changed your name, bring evidence so they know who you are. Next is taxes. Now, if you have any unpaid taxes, pay them. Pay them now, or contact the IRS and make a payment plan now. Then you're going to bring the payment plan with you. If you have either way, it's a good idea to bring taxes for the period of good moral character. The period of good moral character depends on one of those three categories I mentioned earlier. But to make it simple, bring 5 years of taxes. Just make it simple. There's arguments that you can technically be asked, from the time you got your green card, but it's really you're really bringing it for good moral character purposes. So just need the federal income taxes, not the state income taxes. The best thing to do, go to irs.gov, print out a tax transcript. If you can't get an online account, call the IRS or go to the IRS, get the tax transcripts. Those show that your taxes were filed. The forms that you get, even if they're filed, they won't show it. It's just to avoid any potential delays, although they're usually not too picky. But if you haven't paid your taxes, you're behind, then you really want to get the tax transcripts to show that they were filed. If you have any criminal history whatsoever, whether it's the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or beyond, you should have submitted certificates of disposition with the application. Whether you did it or didn't, you need to bring original certificates of disposition to your interview for any arrest. Even before you were a green card holder, any arrests. If you haven't submitted a copy, bring the original. That's with the little seal on it that's raised, and bring a copy. And then the last thing that could apply to everyone would be proof of residency. And this applies in two different scenarios. This applies if you've moved recently, because you have to have lived in a jurisdiction for 3 months before you file. So if you moved right before that, they might want to see you, like if you, let's say, lived in New Jersey, moved to New York, 3 months later, file for naturalization, that's perfectly fine. But they may I've had them asked to see like a driver's license or some proof that you did move into that jurisdiction, and you're not just saying you live there in order because you think it'll be faster or easier or something. It's not a huge deal, and a lot of times it doesn't even apply to people, just something to keep in mind. I've only had it come up actually once, and that was because someone lived in New York, had moved to Georgia, filed there. It was denied for a baseless reason, had moved back to New York. By the time that was all taken care of, reapplied, and they wanted to see his driver's license. He showed it to them, no problem. So that covers, generally speaking, what documents that everyone needs to bring. Now you can skip ahead to the section that says tips. If you're applying based on 5 years and you're not applying based on the 5 years of being the green card holder, and you're not applying based on being an asylee or on being the spouse of a U.S. citizen. So next we are going to talk about very quickly additional documents. There we go. For green card holders who were granted asylum. Very, very simple additional document. Bring proof that your asylum was granted. If you have the original, bring it. They should have it anyway, but it never hurts to have it. Additional documents for marriage-based green card holders. Now, this applies in two circumstances. This may apply because you're applying based on having a green card for 3 years. You are the spouse of a U.S. citizen, and you are still married and living with your U.S. citizen. Some of this, and I will separate them, also applies even if it's been 5 years that since you've gotten your green card, but you still got your green card based on being the spouse of either a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. So you should bring your original marriage certificate and a copy. If you are now divorced to that person, you should bring the divorce decree. Again, original and copy. If you were divorced ever, even if it was before your current marriage or the person you married who filed for your green card, you still want to bring that. Again, even if they should already have your marriage certificate, unless this is a new marriage, they should already have your divorce, if it's an old divorce, but bring it anyway. I've seen cases get held up because they ask for it again. They don't always transfer everything from the file. It's always better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Okay? So, and if you have it and you're still, and this usually applies if you're still married to your spouse, you want proof of your spouse's immigration status. So ideally, you'll bring, again, a copy in the original. But if you're divorced, don't worry too much. If you have it, bring it. If you don't, I wouldn't stress. Now, here is where the difference is. If you're applying based on having a green card for 3 years and the fact that you are married to a U.S. citizen and still living with that U.S. citizen in marital union, then you are going to need to again bring proof that you are still married and living with your U.S. citizen spouse. Now, this isn't as intense as your initial evidence that you need, the evidence you needed for your initial green card, or if you had to file the petition to remove conditions on residency. They don't require as much because most likely, if you're doing the 3 year, you just had your conditions removed. So they've just seen a lot of evidence from you, or you had a lot of times that I-751 gets granted, and then you're already eligible to file for naturalization. So you don't have to go nuts here, but they want to see some stuff. If you file joint taxes, those are a great start. Joint bank accounts, joint lease, if you have kids together, the kids' birth certificates, joint utility bills, the real type of evidence. You can bring some pictures, you can bring some affidavits. You know, if you watch any of the other videos when I talk about evidence, you know, I always say that some evidence is more important than others. They expect by the time you're ready to naturalize, you'll have better joint financial and marital evidence, and pictures and letters from family and friends fall at the bottom of the barrel. So you don't have to go crazy. I don't even generally review them before clients bring them. It is just important that you have some with you, otherwise they're going to delay it. And again, if you have any questions about how much to bring or what if you can bring this or that, please do not hesitate to contact us. So, as I said, a lot less evidence you need for this type of interview. Let's talk about some tips so that your interview goes as smoothly as possible. First and foremost, get there early. If you have an interview at 10 a.m., plan to get there at 9 a.m. It always takes more time than you think. There is no parking. If you're in New York City, and if you're other places, and Newark too, there's no parking. So get there early. Worst case, go to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts and wait across the street until a half hour before to go up, but usually they let you up earlier anyway. But get there early. I can't stress that enough. If you're more than 15 minutes late, you'll have considered to have missed your interview, and they will deny your case. Next, get a good night's sleep the night before, which I know is easier said than done. But you want to be wide awake, alert, ready to go. So try to get a good night's sleep, even if it's in the afternoon. Next, eat something before you go to the interview. As I said earlier, you may end up waiting for a long time. You might wait for 10 minutes, you might wait for 3 hours. Anywhere in between, could even be more. Trust me, I've spent all day there before. So you can't, they allow you to drink like water in there, but they do not allow you to eat. So make sure you eat something before you go in. Be ready to wait, which I've kind of already mentioned twice, but bring a book, bring something. Sometimes people bring the civics questions to practice. That's not a bad idea. Just make sure when you go into the interview, you put it away. You can bring a copy of your application. I didn't mention that earlier. They should have it. You shouldn't need it. Again, nothing can hurt to have. I recommend it if you had to make a lot of updates, like if you've changed jobs and you have additional children and you've moved. Like, it does help if you marked it up to bring in with you. Otherwise, you can just note it for them. Be honest. You will not help yourself if you lie about anything. If you were one of our clients watching this, we have told you that you are eligible for naturalization. If there's any issues, we've already talked about it, and you have to be honest. If you lie, they will know, and then not only are you going to have your application denied, you can risk being put into deportation proceedings and losing your green card and being deported. So do not lie. If you're worried about something, if you applied without consulting an attorney and you're worried about something now, it's possible to withdraw the application. Contact us as soon as possible to discuss if that's necessary and or advised. Only answer the question that is asked. So listen very carefully. If they say to you, do you have a mailing address? The answer is yes or no. So yes. If they want to know what the mailing address is, they will then follow up and say, what is the mailing address? My mailing address is 11 Broadway, Suite 615, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times people will say, do you have a mailing address? Yeah. Do you have a mailing address? 11 Broadway, Suite 615. Let them follow up. They know they know the information they want. If you don't know the answer to a question, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. Or you forget, just say, I don't know. When you sit there trying to figure out an answer, they are trained to try to figure out if you're lying. It doesn't look good. So it's okay to not know the answer. Just say, I don't know. If you don't understand the question that is asked, do not answer the question. Say, I don't understand. They will ask you the question again. You should not need an interpreter. In fact, unless you fall into one of a few exceptions, you are not entitled to an interpreter, hence the English test. We will have talked to you in advance. If you're entitled to an exception, we would have already had to request it, and you already know going into it. Otherwise, you are taking the English test, you're taking the civics test, and your interview will be in English. So, as I said, the civics test and the English test usually go first, and then they're going to get to your application. First, they're going to say, are there any updates? Or they might just start going through it and you'll update as you go. Know the answers on your application. Make sure they're correct before you go in. Mistakes are made all the time. It's okay. You can correct it. But make sure you know and make sure that you've reviewed it all. And you practice just so you're not nervous. You'll know what to expect. Some officers will go through every single question on the form, and some won't. Why they do and they don't, it's really up to the individual officer. So just be prepared. Once they get through all the questions about where you live and your family and where you worked, you get to the security questions. And I always urge people to practice these questions because sometimes they elicit interesting reactions from people because they're not expecting them. And again, you're being interviewed by someone who's paying attention to your body language and how you react, and you don't want to be misinterpreted. So there's questions about, have you ever killed anyone? Are you going to torture somebody? Are you a Nazi in the 1920s or 30s or something? I get chuckles sometimes from clients, and I'm always like, I know, like, it's funny for you because you would never kill someone, but the person interviewing you doesn't know that. So they have no idea who you are. So be prepared to answer all of the questions. In terms of the arrest questions, again, if you've ever been arrested at all, even if it's not in the past 3 or 5 years, I recommend you contact an immigration attorney before going to your interview, because if it happened in the last 5 years, it might affect your ability to get your green card, even if it was dismissed, your case. If it happened outside the 5 years, there might be other inadmissibilities. Again, if you're one of our clients, we should have discussed this already. However, if you've been arrested between the time that you filed your application and the time of your interview, please make sure you tell us, because that affects your case. You have to prove your eligibility up until you literally are holding your naturalization certificate at the oath ceremony. So if anything happens, if you get into any trouble or anything that would now make you ineligible or bring your moral character into question, you can have a big problem. So if you were worried about any of that, make sure that you contact us. Whether we filed your application or not, again, this is something where you need to consult with an attorney, because you might end up, to avoid deportation proceedings, withdrawing your application and refiling it after a certain time, or maybe just withdrawing it, or maybe it's not a big deal at all. Either way, you'll feel much better if you know that going into it. So that's basically all you need to know about naturalization interviews. Like I said, we are available for hire. If you have not hired us to file your application, but it is a very exciting time. I love going to naturalization interviews with clients because you're more likely, generally at naturalization interviews, to know if it's granted or not by the end of it. So speaking of the end, one of three things will happen. Either they're going to tell you we can't approve it. Usually that happens when you fail the civics or English test. You'll know that, and you'll get a notice that says, we're going to send you a new interview notice. They'll say we can't approve it yet because we're missing evidence, or and they'll either give you the list there, or they'll mail it, or they'll say that we need to review it or send it to its supervisor. That happens. Option number 2 happens when we'll maybe say 4 things can happen. So 1 is you got to re-interview, 2, because you failed the English and civics test. 2 is they need evidence. And that's if, like, you are applying based on your 3-year marriage, but you forgot your marriage evidence, or they wanted to see your tax, but you didn't bring them, something like that. They'll need more evidence. The next thing that can happen is they can't make a decision because that you need a supervisor review. That might just happen very simply because the person who interviewed you is too low down to make a decision. That generally also happens when you have any type of issue, like any type of criminal history, or you have been in removal proceedings. If the person who interviewed you is in a supervisor, the supervisor usually has to check off on it. They can outright deny you, which I guess that means there's 5 options, but they can outright deny you. I haven't, in my memory, I can't remember anyone getting flat out denied. Oh, I've had it happen once because the date on the green card ended up being wrong. So they hadn't been a green card holder long enough, which I was so angry about, because that's what you go off of, the issue date. That's the only time, but they can deny it outright if you're not eligible. But again, that's usually pretty rare unless you didn't know there was a mistake in your green card. Like the green card should have said like 2014, but it said 2013, something like that. I think that's the only time I've been to one where it's been denied at the interview. And then, of course, the last thing is they can approve it. Some offices are able to do your oath ceremony that day. I've had that happen in Newark. Other offices, especially post-COVID, usually they're going to mail you out the oath ceremony letter. Before you leave, make sure that you get some piece of paper to prove you were there. If I'm with you, I will make sure I get the paper. If I'm on the phone, I'll ask the officer to give you it and to mail it to me. If you are without an attorney, make sure you get something. That should either say, it's a form that usually they check off, either we need more evidence, congratulations, you passed the English and civics test, a decision cannot be made, you need more evidence, supervisor review, or we denied it, or we approved it, we will send you a notice for your oath ceremony. The oath ceremony letter will depend, when you get it, will depend on how long the line is. Once you get it, that's where you turn in your green card. There's some information you fill out. Again, anything that's changed, they're going to ask about, you report it, but assuming nothing changes and all goes well, you will take your oath of citizenship and get your naturalization certificate then. So that is now all you need to know about the naturalization interview. If you have any questions at all or think that you may need representation at the interview, please do not hesitate to contact us. Let me, while I wrap up, put our actual contact information at the bottom of the screen. We are available for hire. If you found this video useful, please share it. Like us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube for more helpful videos for different types of immigration interviews, as well as other immigration topics, filing advice as well. And otherwise, good luck at your interview, and we look forward to hearing that we have a new U.S. citizen. Thank you all for watching.